Futures trading involves substantial risk of loss and may not be suitable for all investors.
Good morning. It's Thursday, November 21st, about 6 a.m. Central Time. All right, the precious metals are steady with the gold-silver ratio headed to 86-1 from yesterday's 85-1. I mentioned yesterday that the chart patterns between gold and silver are painting very different pictures at the moment. We just have to be aware of that. I'm not being critical of silver. I just passionately analyze that market. So yesterday, I read about 2 hours on industrial production set to keep silver in a structural deficit going out into 2025. So it's important to be aware of what are the drivers that are really going to move that market and move the needle and get things really accelerating higher, because we know that silver oftentimes needs to parlay off of both copper, industrial production, China, and the gold market. So if we ever do hit $50 an ounce, I can retire and convert this YouTube channel to Phil's Fantastic Fishing channel and go from there. So looking at the data here overnight, you do have December gold up $21 at $26.72. The gold silver ratio here again pushing up to about 86-1, and gold futures right on about the high of the trading session. Now, if you look at the chart pattern on gold, sitting right at about the 50-day moving average. So we'll see how it trades around this level. The low overnight, 26.51. That shows you that 26.50 coming in as a key psychological level of support. You do have the February gold getting back above 2,700 just for a brief moment here, but anchored just slightly below it as well. So you'll want to note a couple things here. One, the open interest on the February gold contract is now higher than the December one. The trading volume, though, still lags the December contract, as it's the front month still on things like CQG and a lot of different trading platforms. What I'm letting you know is that if you're going to establish new positions that are core positions or long-term positions, you'll most likely want a position in those farther out contracts, March on silver and February on gold. So if you look at gold, the first notice date for delivery is going to be November 29th. Most company policies will be you want to roll the day before that, November 28th. So just be aware of that and be aware that you're going to need to roll those positions. Now looking at the silver market, up about 9 cents right now, 31.09. So gold's gaining about 0.7% overnight, while silver futures are just failing to perform and failing to get above that 31.61. So what's happening is it's not necessarily forming a lower high on the chart. It's more going into this consolidation pattern of a type of wait and see. So we're just going to want to observe that, just like how we observe the flows on different markets. So, you look at Bitcoin reaching a new all-time high in the overnight market. Well, where are the flows? They're there. They're in Solana. They're not necessarily in the Ether contract, because you have Ether trailing Bitcoin at about a 3-year low when you look at the ratio. That's how we kind of analyze the silver market at the moment. Or just like someone would analyze corn versus soybeans, crude oil versus natural gas, things like that. We just want to see where traders are really going with their money, where they're parking it, and where they're chasing, because a lot of the commodity game is chasing momentum. So when I look to deploy new capital, I got to know which asset I want to target. So you always, in my opinion, want to target the fastest horse in the race. And then when you win some of those races, then you use those proceeds to buy some of the lotto tickets, because we all know that every dog has its day. So 3 headlines you're going to really see. This is going to be all over the news networks here. One, the revenue forecast from NVIDIA failed to meet the lofty expectations. Now, NVIDIA was down about 3% overnight. Now it's down about 2.25% as of this recording. But if you look at the S&P and the NASDAQ, they're coming right back up to unchanged at the moment. So I think that investors are really coming in and buying this dip in a lot of the U.S. equity markets. The second thing you're going to watch is that Bitcoin, if you look at the November futures, 98,860 was the high overnight. If you're going to play Bitcoin futures, which is 1/10 of a Bitcoin, you'll most likely want to focus on that December contract to give you a lot more time, which the December contract's trading at 99,000. The January contract is already over 100,000. So in theory, based upon all of the algorithms, the way the markets are moving here, the way people are chasing it, is that Bitcoin futures will most likely hit $100,000 here today, just based upon those types of flows. The third thing, and you might not get as much coverage on this because there's a bit of a they're trying to shy away from this war that's going on in the Ukraine because of the fact it's negative headlines. I don't think that the Biden administration wants to pass this torch off to the Trump administration. I think they'd like to end the war prior, and the way their strategy is they're trying to end it by utilizing force with those longer range missiles. We saw 2 of the British long-range missiles fired yesterday, and that's where you had a deep dive in the U.S. equity markets. You had the dollar index go up, you had treasury yields go up, and then you also had the gold market go up. And that's part of the reason why that gold market is gaining traction on the silver market. Gold's being more perceived as that safe haven asset here. So the news report is that Russia fired an intercontinental ballistic missile overnight. What's important about that is that's the missile that they would use to attach the nuclear warhead on it. So a little bit scary, and I think that's why you got crude oil futures up about $1.40 overnight, making new highs. You have wheat futures breaking out to the upside overnight here. So remember, if you do see that nuke deployed, I don't think anyone wants to eat radioactive wheat, and that probably takes the production levels over in the Ukraine down a little bit. So I think that that's a market that people are targeting here. So you got a lot of safe haven flows. You've got gold, you've got wheat, you've got crude oil, you've got Bitcoin, a little bit on the dollar index, a little bit more on the Japanese yen, up about 0.5% here. So the other thing about silver is that there's a lot of negativity surrounding solar, green energy, Chinese stimulus, and miners at the moment here. So that's another reason why I think it's lagging a bit. And I get access to the Bloomberg terminal, and you'll see that Endeavor Silver shares dropped as much as 11% overnight. There was some managing director of this mineral resources down in Australia failed to file his personal taxes. Then you look at like Barrick Gold, Newmont, their latest quarterly earnings, they really struggled. So you say you're going to diversify going to GDX. Well, that makes up like 17 to 20% of that index. That's why I'm telling you, I favor going into the metals futures, because you can control the leverage by increasing the dollar amount you put in and then get comfortable with that futures. Plus, with things with geopolitical risks heightening right now, you're going to want to have that 24-hour access as opposed to just being able to trade during normal market hours. Like if you were in the oil market, you could be trading that market here if you do have the futures contract. So a little bit of a rant here about different things. But getting back to it, CME Fed Watch Tool, 59% chance they cut interest rates 25 basis points. That's the same as yesterday. We do have some economic data coming out. Little bit of an uptick in the unemployment claims expected, 220,000. That could further add a little bit of firepower to the gold market going up. And then if the gold and silver get too stretched apart, you should see silver futures snatch back up. The problem with silver at the moment here, again, just on today's observation and yesterday, is that copper futures have really failed to break out. Copper down about 0.5% right now, 412.90 last. And then you got platinum futures about unchanged at 964. So there was some automotive news overnight that was also not very supportive as well. We will see some Philly Fed manufacturing index and 3 more Fed speakers come out. If you look at the gold market, again, needs to get over that 50-day moving average, needs to hold 2650 as your close-in support. Silver futures, again, 3161 is going to be that critical level. You also want to see it hold yesterday's low, which was 3086, and the low of the overnight session is 3092. So that little pocket support there, you're going to want to see it hold that market. You also want to throw up the MACD, see if that starts to turn positive on the silver market. And something that's nice about silver at the moment is that the average true range is starting to die down to 89 to 1. So you're seeing some of the volatility come out of that market as well. So if you got any questions, give me a call, 312-858-7303. Remember, futures options trading does involve risk of loss, may not be suitable to all investors. Good luck, good trading.